Hi, everyone. It's Lydia with the Global Travel Junkie podcast and YouTube channel. Welcome, everyone. And I want to welcome our guest today. We have Michelle here, and she's in the UK. How you doing, Michelle?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. It's a little cold here today. We're used to like yesterday it was like 80 and now it's like 50. So I'm getting used to wearing like a heavier sweater right now.
Yeah, I'm in London, so yeah, I'm feeling it. It's cold
Is
for
it? Yeah,
sure.
what's the temperature? Is it wet? Is it wet and cold or
A little bit wet, but it's mainly just cold, like really chilling to the bone. Yeah, I've just come back from spending some time back home in Australia, 2 months over Christmas, so it was a bit of a slap in the face to come back to the cold here, but
right?
at
Because
least
it's
it's helping me get
summertime
through like.
there, right? It's summer in Australia right now.
Yeah, sure is. Yeah, lovely weather in the 30s, 30 degrees
Oh,
Celsius.
nice. Awesome.
I
Well,
don't do
let's get
Fahrenheit,
rolling.
sorry.
Yes, yes. Well, let's get rolling. I want to start off. I always like to start off by sharing, like, if I know or don't know my guest. And I want my audience to know that I don't know Michelle. We just have met through some Instagram communications, and I follow her channel and her feed. And I love the videos and the teachings that she does. And so I asked her if she would come on the show and talk about her particular method for learning languages. And she's going to introduce herself. We're going to hear all about her method, and then you're going to find out how you can get in touch with her. So that's how I found Michelle. And so now I just want her to take a moment and introduce herself, let the audience get to know who my guest is today. So take it away, Michelle.
Thank you. Well, first of all, it's a real pleasure. It was really nice to have your message come into my inbox and connect with you. Any opportunity to talk about languages as a way to improve travel is my thing. It's how I function. It's my big passion in life. So, yeah, my name is Michelle. I'm originally from Melbourne, Australia. I live in London now, though. So, there's a bit of a story to how I got here. And yeah, it started when I was very young. I'm named after my nonna, my grandfather, my dad is of Italian descent. He was born in Italy. And as goes tradition, you name your children after your parents. So my dad named me after my nonno, which is Italian for grandfather. So that's why my name it's actually Michael if you translate it into Italian. So Michele instead of Michel or Michela. So it really confuses Italians when I go to Italy and I've got like a booking, a reservation, and oh, but you're a woman, and I'm like, yeah, I know, and they're really confused. They don't know how to call me. Is it Michelle? Is it Michele? So they'll kind of go, oh, well, I'll call you Michelle because it's like the French version. And so this sort of story, I've not had to, I love it, but it keeps my family history front of mind and my roots especially. And it's because of my roots that when my nonno passed away when I was about 17, it really triggered something inside of me. I really wanted to learn Italian. I grew up with my dad speaking Italian with his side of the family, but my mum being Australian, Irish, Lebanese descent, the language at home was English. So I never heard it a lot and enough for us to learn it, myself and my sisters. So when he passed away, it was like a flick of a switch. It's like, I'm carrying his name, his legacy. I'm really proud, but I feel like I wasted that time not being able to communicate with him properly because my nonno couldn't speak Italian. So I couldn't speak English. I couldn't speak Italian. So I felt like there was a lot of opportunity missed during that time. And as you get older, you have more of appreciation for your roots and where you come from and your self identity and all of this. So I started learning Italian, and after a few years, I had reached a really good, solid intermediate level. This was all in Australia, and then I decided, I just love Italy, Italian. I want to move to Italy. So with my dad's support, I moved to Italy. Like the plan was just to go there indefinitely and just see what would happen. So I quit my job. I went to Italy and I moved there and I loved it. And I was there for 3 wonderful years, improving my Italian and just discovering a different way of living. It wasn't like it was back in Melbourne where everyone was climbing the corporate ladder and everyone was about money and houses and cars and all these sorts of things. The focus shifted to friendships, relationships, going out and being together and eating well and all these sorts of things. And no one ever talked about work. It wasn't part of the conversation. And yeah, I had a different appreciation for life. And unfortunately, I couldn't stay in Italy beyond my 3 years there because even though my dad was born in Italy, he doesn't have his citizenship. He was naturalized Australian, so he lost his citizenship, and therefore I couldn't stay there any longer. So I was running out of visa options. So I thought I'd come to the UK because it was a bit easier with the Commonwealth between Australia and the UK. And yeah, I've been here ever since. And yeah, I was really missing the daily challenge, the cultural challenge, the stimulation I had living in Rome. And that's when I decided to start the Intrepid Guide, which is my travel and language learning website, and creating free resources, free travel phrase guides in different languages, not just Italian, to help people just to have a little bit of be a bit more clued up on the local language, on local customs, and just have a bit of, a few phrases under the belt that you can use to break the ice and be respectful when you go traveling and you're meeting people. Because I find in my experience that when I was traveling around Italy with the different, the different dialects, the different regions, that I had the most wonderful memories just by interacting with people. It wasn't so much, I went to the Colosseum and I was blown away. Yes, that happened, but it was those interactions with people that I had, no matter how big or how small they were, that had really stayed with me. And I wanted to help spread that joy and that message. So that was a big part of the reason why I started the Intrepid Guide. And then more recently, focus on my heritage language, which is Italian, and realizing there are a lot of people like me that have Italian heritage and didn't necessarily grow up learning or speaking the language, but now want to later in life, when they're in their 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, and so on. Like it's never too late. So yeah, that's a bit of my life story, but I think it's
Thank
important to sort
you.
of
I
to
do have a
tell.
couple questions about that, about what you said. How long have you been living in the UK?
So yeah, I've been here for 8 years, 9
Okay.
years now. Yeah.
Okay. So, but that allows you to go back and forth to Italy fairly easily. Like when you go there and do your little videos and stuff, what's your travel? Do you fly or take trains or what?
Yeah, I fly. Yeah, that was part of the reason why I decided to move to the UK, not back to Australia, so I could stay close to Italy and have those
Yeah.
frequent trips. So that's what I do now. And yeah, I'm able to stay for longer periods of time, but not too much because, again, visas. And then Brexit happened. So yeah, so my British passport that I have now basically doesn't give me any more rights than I had
Oh,
with my Australian one when
you
I was
could just
visiting
be
Italy.
closer to Italy. That's it,
Yeah,
right?
I'm just closer. Exactly. That's a good
Yeah,
way
I
to look
get
at
it.
it.
I understand. I've always you lived kind of what I wanted. I lived in Italy when I was 21. I lived there for 6 months. I think I told you I'd taken Italian in college courses and then I did a travel abroad thing. But when I came home, my mom just said, "Please just I was having so much fun with the people
Yeah.
and the town, and I lived in a small Tuscan town and medieval town actually that had like the four ports, with the gate around it. And I lived inside the gate in a monastery, which was awesome. But what I was going to say is my dream was at that time when I turned 21, my mom said, just come home and graduate college and then you can do whatever you want. And I wanted to go back, but family tragedies and stuff happened in my life at 22 years old and I couldn't go back at that time. And then it just like I got into the corporate world. I became a medical sales rep. And I mean, that dream just got further and further away as life started to happen. But my motivation for creating online digital platforms where I can, be mobile and move around and still make an income is my motivation is so that I can live 6 months at a time in Italy and live, by country, like 6 months in Italy and 6 months in, US or somewhere else, because I think the visa is like a 6 month mark, right? Just for traveling, you can only stay for 6 months if you're just traveling for vacation.
Yeah, I mean, there are different rules for the Schengen, and it's also depending on what passport you have. It might be a bit different between your
Oh,
American passport and
countries.
my
Yeah.
Australian one. But definitely for like in the Schengen, you can't stay. You can't stay longer than, I think it's 90 days within an 180-day period. I think is the
Oh, it's
latest.
90 consistent days, you mean? Like you have to leave within 90
I
days?
haven't looked into it, but it's I don't I I don't know if it's consecutive,
Oh,
but
it's okay.
it could
Anyway,
just
I mean, I
be,
have to
yeah.
look into it. A friend of mine said that if I sign up for an Italian class in Italy, then I'm considered a student. So I might do that.
Yeah, with the student visa, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I could be a student at 54 years old.
Why not? Why not?
That
I've got plenty of
apparently
students that
that's
age.
one way to do it. So anyway, okay. So let's move on. I wanted to now that I know a little bit more about you and your Italian background, but you've spent so much time. You go to Italy pretty frequently, right? Aside from the
Yeah, as
10
much as I
years.
can. Yeah,
Yeah,
as much as I
exactly.
can.
So just touch on, for anyone who doesn't know what Italy is, I mean, this is a global travel podcast. So anyone who has never been to Italy, I wanted to ask you, what are your favorite aspects about Italy that would help entice a listener to want to put it on their bucket list as a place to visit?
Oh, well, I think we need a long time to go
I
through all the
know.
positives.
Just pick the, I mean,
I
I'm there
think,
with you. I mean, we wanted to
yeah,
live there, so.
I mean, the first one that I touched upon before is the shift in the perspective and your what you pay attention to in life. I think it's easy to think that where you come from, that's the way that the world is and the way the world works and how everyone functions around you. And for me, when I moved to Italy when I was 25, I'm still a baby as an adult. I'm still finding my feet and I hadn't seen the world. So when I went to Italy, it was not a shock, but it was a different outlook on life. Like I said, the focus shifted to social and emotional and family life. And this was something that obviously I've come from a loving family, but every day people are talking about work and I'm stressed and the corporate ladder and I want to go for this promotion, I got to get this job. When I went to Italy, the conversations were totally different.
It was
No
like
one,
cibo.
sorry?
It was like cibo. What's the food? The
Yeah,
tavola.
cheap or for food. Yeah, the focus is really on enjoying life. And I know that, La Dolce Vita gets thrown around a little bit, but the real essence of it is just to really focus on the simple and the sweet things in life. That is where life is just the best. When you focus on being around the people that love you, eating food that you love, that it's like a taste explosion in your mouth. You don't need lots of material things. It's just finding the pleasantries, the sweetness in the little things that we take for granted. So that's a big part of it, is the lifestyle. Obviously there are pros and cons to Italy, like the bureaucracy is, crazy. You want to tear your hair out, but yeah, obviously the food is incredible. There's so many there's so much of a variety in Italy. With every region in Italy, it's a different history. There's a different culinary um, dishes to try and to taste, and it's usually tied to its history. Dialects and accents vary so much between these regions and even between towns within regions. Like you
Personality.
can't just, yeah, you just can't. For me, you can't just go to Rome or go to Florence or go to Venice and say that you've seen Italy, because there's so many other parts of Italy that it's like its own country. And what's connecting it is, the standard Italian language. But Italy is quite young as a country. So like it was only unified in the late 1800s. So mid 1800s, sorry. So you can just sort of see that its identity is still evolving, and it's not like a lot of things aren't unified. It doesn't have the same history in every region or the same language. they had to, you know, standardize Italian so everyone could understand each other, because there are so many dialects that are still spoken, but are spoken amongst, you know, individual communities. So yeah, Italy is
You
there's a
know,
lot to unravel.
one of the things that I loved about Italy, the first time I went, I was 15. I was with my church choir group, and then we sang on the Spanish Steps and stuff like that. But then I went back when I was 17, and then again, I lived there when I was 21. So, one of the things that struck me about Italy as a country and a culture is how individualistic everyone was. It did not feel cookie cutter people at all. Like, there wasn't like, I never really noticed like there's just one way of there being, like homogenistic type people. Everyone had their own colorful way of representing and expressing themselves. And it was always very vibrant and, literally colorful, like even from their hairstyle color, what they put in their hair, and, and just comfortable being, it's like a country where you're like, I'm comfortable being me, in this country, because everyone's celebrated, like I love that about Italy. So, okay, good. Well, those are some good, aspects. Now you already talked about, why you wanted to get into the language space. It's kind of like your hobby, and also like how important and passionate you are about people having just that deeper experience of language when they go to wherever they travel to. So let's talk a little bit about just language. Your particular system is unique that you talk about, and help people understand like what makes it unique and why is it important to understand where you learn your language from.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've got lots of different resources on my website for learning languages and different strategies, different methods. I think the key thing when it comes to language learning is to find something that works for you. There's no one solution that works for everyone. So when people try something, they're like, "Oh, this doesn't work," and they'll come up with like an automatic excuse or a reason. I'm too old. I can't learn. I'm too old. I should have started when I was younger. There's no point learning now. Or this resource doesn't work. Or I've got a bad memory. All these things, we all, in some capacity, every language learner suffers from this mindset or these mental blocks. And that's all they are. They're only mental blocks. There is nothing to say that you, at whatever age, can't learn X language or X anything. There's nothing that you can't learn. So if you're struggling with memory, there are memory techniques that you can use to help you to remember things. There's also, I have a quiz on my website which helps you to identify what kind of a learner you are. So you could be a more visual learner, you could be a more auditory learner. You could learn better when you're in movement. So when you're walking and you're absorbing, listening to a podcast, you can really take it in. There are different learner types. So it's important to know what learner type you are, and then go and find resources that help you to learn whatever it is, in this case, languages. So, there's no reason, I don't have anything special about me that makes me different from anyone else. It just takes time, it takes practice, and it takes finding a method that resonates with you. For me, and what you were asking before about what makes my approach to language learning different, is that through my experience with learning languages, especially through traditional systems where you go through like language schools or you go through those courses, and that's the default for everyone, right? I'll just sign up for a language school and go through that process, and then I'll learn the language. There are pros and cons to that, and the biggest con in my experience has been that they always teach you the things from the beginning that you don't necessarily, excuse me, that you don't necessarily need to know right at the beginning, because you can't use it in a conversation today. And the most important part of when you're learning a language is to feel motivated, to feel like you can do it, to have a positive attitude, to have something that you can hit the ground running with, that you can start to implement it, play with it, get confident with it. And this momentum gives you the positivity and the belief that you can continue, that you can learn the language, because it's so daunting in those beginning stages. It's like a hockey stick of information coming at you. The learning curve is so steep because you're learning so many new things. So one of the things that people experience when they're using, for example, like Duolingo, is that they'll get lots of vocabulary, but they won't know how to put that together into a sentence, or they'll learn sentences that they'll never use. So I've got a few screenshots of when I was playing around with this when I was learning Norwegian. And there's like ones where the sentence was, I'm sitting on the bathroom floor crying. And it's just like strange vocabulary, right? Like it's not conducive to learning something practical that empowers you. It's fun and it's entertaining, and I get that, and it has a value in the sense that it's good for creating like a daily language learning habit. But if you've got a trip coming up, or you just really want to start playing with the language and get that excitement that comes by playing with the language and creating your own sentences, that's what I focus on. I have what I call the 80-20 method. So for those of you that don't know, this is a principle that was coined by a management consultant, Joseph M. Duran, and it was named after an Italian economist called Vilfredo Pareto. So it's also called the Pareto principle, or the Pareto principle. Now he found, this is in 1896, he found that approximately 80% of the land in Italy was owned by 20% of the population. So this was like an interesting ratio. And then the management consultant could see that this ratio could be found in other aspects or areas of our lives. So for example, 80% of our income, your salary that you get every month, is spent on the same 20% of bills or expenses, your electricity, your phone, your internet, going out, buying food in restaurants, all those sorts of things. Or 20% of articles on a website, so like a news website, being read by 80% of its web traffic. So there's like this top 20% of articles that are getting the most attention by 80% of the people that are visiting the site. So it's this ratio that you can see applied in lots of aspects of our lives. The ratio might be a little bit different. It could be 70-30, it could be 60-40, but the idea is that there is a percentage, like a higher percentage, that is accounting for the most of your success. So the exact numbers are, the important part here. The key is that most of your results come from a fraction of the effort that you put in. So with me, I focus on the 20% of the language that you can use in 80% of the situations that you find yourself in. So if you're traveling, so I've got a travel language course, and I've also got more in-depth grammar courses. So my travel courses, so Intrepid Italian for Travel, is focusing on the situations when you're traveling. What are you doing? You're introducing yourself, you're asking for directions, you're buying tickets, you're ordering food, you're asking for the bill, you're asking for where the toilet is, you're buying tickets, you want to know how much something costs. So there's really repeatable vocabulary that you'll need to know. You don't need to know, how to say giraffe, or, there's a pink elephant, in the bathroom eating cheese.
Or I'm crying on the bathroom floor.
Yeah, I'm not crying on the bathroom floor eating cheese or eating bread. So I really focus on the vocabulary, of course, in this case, but also, a little bit of grammar for this particular course. I don't want to overload people with too much grammar, because that can be quite daunting. I save that for the ones that want to get to like a serious intermediate level. So I have courses for that as well. So yeah, it's focusing on that 20% of the language that is your working vocabulary, because there are hundreds of thousands of words that we have in our language. But if you think about all the words in a dictionary, I'm not using every one of those words in the dictionary every day. A lot of that is jargon. A lot of it is like specific to certain areas. I'm not talking about politics or astronomy or, like any of these more advanced things. That comes later on if you want to learn that, for work or for whatever it is. If you're,
technical language.
Yeah, technical language. But your working vocabulary is around 2,000 to 3,000 words. So it's not that much in comparison to all the words that are available to us. And just to add to that, you don't need to be fluent in a language to have fun with it and to appreciate it and to get value from it. You can have broken conversations. Italian's very forgiving. You don't need to have perfect grammar. And that's not what this is about. This is just about getting a message across, communicating something. The other person's like, they can piece it together, and then they send something back to you, then you piece that together. And it's a dialogue. It's, it's a two-way street. and people aren't going to, give you a hard time if you don't get your grammar right. They, especially Italians, they're very appreciative of how much, sorry, I got a tickle in my throat. That you're making an effort to learn their language. Sorry.
Okay. So while you're doing that, I'm going to give you a huge compliment, or one of the things that I loved that I learned from you that I didn't learn in 3 years of college courses and 6 months of living there, and you taught me something on your social media feed that was very valuable to me, I thought, and it really stuck with me. So you were doing your video on gender, feminine and masculine, and when is something this and when is something feminine, masculine. And so the example you used was, if you're going to the furniture store, the mobile store, and you want to buy a tavolo, then you buy a tavolo, right? But if you put food on it in the kitchen, it's now become a tavola, right?
Bravissima.
Do I have that right?
Very good. You got it right.
So, I mean, you taught that once and it really stuck, with me. And I was like, God, I really never knew. Like when I was talking, I was probably telling my friends, like, let's go to the tavolo. Let's go to the tavolo and eat some food. Or like, oh, you're a bello e tavolo. Like if I was complimenting the food on the table, I probably said bello e tavolo. And they were like, oh, it's a tavola. And I'm like, well, why is it? Like I would never ask or understand their correction, because you're just having fun and you're just like, okay, you get my point. I'm not going to try to remember that, but your teaching that stuck with me. So now I will speak correctly when the food is on the table. I'm like, let's go to the tavola, andiamo a tavola, because the food is ready. Like siamo pronti, we're ready. Right. And so I love that about your teaching, for people who just want to watch her Instagram and your social media feed. Are you doing like TikTok and all this other stuff, or just Instagram?
Yeah, so I am on TikTok as well. YouTube, I have a website.
Are you launching like the same videos on the different platforms? Like you're just recording and they're the same thing?
So I'm more active on Instagram, but yeah, I do share my videos.
Well, my favorite is Instagram. I like being on Instagram too. It's very clean and not you clean, but the platform is simple and not noisy. I find, TikTok is really noisy to me. It's like it plays when you don't want it to play and you can't ever get it off your screen. You have to hit it twice, so I'm more of an Instagram person. So I recommend y'all, to follow her on Instagram. What is your tell them what your Instagram name is so they can find you?
Yeah, so it's Intrepid Italian. So if you type in Intrepid Italian, then you'll find me. I also have Intrepid Guide. That was my main channel. But if you're interested in learning Italian specifically, then you can find me at Intrepid Italian. Yeah.
How many languages did you learn or teach?
So I've studied Italian, French, Norwegian, and a little bit of Afrikaans. Italian is my strongest language. So it's given me a little bit of variety between like Germanic for like, Afrikaans, the Romance languages, French and Italian. And obviously Norwegian is part of the Germanic languages as well, the Nordic languages. But yeah, I find it fascinating. And each language helps me to learn the next one, similarities and differences. It's good fun.
Yeah. And so with knowing French, have you thought about Spanish? Because it's so, the Romance languages are so much familiar.
Yeah, I have a Spanish course, but it's not a language that I've given too much focus on. There's only so many languages that I can learn and maintain. So
I know it's a lot. I'm sure you're busy just with Italian. I do want to say, like, you have such a great accent. That's why I thought you were like Italian raised in Italy when I heard you. You have such a wonderful accent because you shift from on your channel, you speak, Australian.
Yeah.
Is that considered a language? You speak English in your
Probably, yeah, I think
Australian
so.
accent on one part of the video, and then you explain and talk about it in Italian. And I love like how different you sound in both of your languages. So you're really a master at Italian, and you were only there for 3 months and learning. Did you learn it before you went there?
3 years I
I
lived
mean,
in
I'm
Rome
sorry,
for.
3 years. Yes,
Yeah.
I did hear
I
that.
um
3
I
years.
studied in Melbourne, Australia, just by going to language schools, by using resources, by just consuming movies. I'd go to the Italian Film Festival, listen to Italian music all the time as I was commuting to and from work. So I really immersed myself. So for those of you that are thinking, I just need to move to X country just so I can learn a language, it's not true. It's not where you live, it's how you live. There's always something you can do. And this is before the internet was providing so many, incredible language learning resources. At the time, I was using lots of books, and just, physically having to go to the cinema to watch things. I couldn't just download things or, use Netflix and all these resources that we have at our disposal today. So don't let that deter you. It was my choice. I just really wanted to move to Italy with the goal also to improve my Italian, because I would be constantly surrounded by it. But I reached a B1 level, at home in Australia, in an English speaking country. And B1 is the level that you'll need if you're applying for citizenship or if you want to apply for a university. It's a great level to reach in Italian, in any language, really. It gives you that functional usage. And you don't need to be perfect. And, for me, with my courses, I'm very, I thank you for your compliment that I have, a nice Italian accent. But I'm aware that when I do speak Italian, I do have an accent. But in my courses, while I'm giving the explanations in English, I have native Italian speakers say all the parts in Italian. So I'll explain the concepts, and then I'll have lots
Oh,
of examples that are read by an Italian. So people are getting the native Italian
wow.
accent, and they have the benefit of both worlds, really, because I have the perspective of the hurdles that English speakers, well, native English speakers have when they're learning Italian, and the common pitfalls that we experience. So I can teach to those areas, those parts that we struggle with the most. And you'll also have a native Italian, reading out all the examples that I give. So yeah, it's quite different in that way.
That's amazing. And in the final minutes of our episode, can you explain, if someone buys your course, I would like them to understand, what is it like? Like, is it video? Is it what? Like, tell us how it works when someone buys your course.
Sure. So I've got the travel. I've got 4 travel courses in different languages: Italian, French, Norwegian, and Spanish. So these are really great if you got a trip coming up and you just want to get a few words. You want to get like a crash course in the language. That's what these courses are for. All of my courses are pre-recorded video classes or lessons that you get, and you can learn at your own pace in your own time on any device. And that's the whole point and the reason why I created it this way, because we're different time zones, we're busy, we've got different schedules. We're not all going to be free at 6 o'clock on a Wednesday night to do a 2-hour lesson. 2 hours is, a long time to be focused on something where you're learning intensively. So these courses are broken down into short chunks of lessons that you can do and, review or revise, and, learn at your own pace. And there's no judgment. You don't have to compare yourself with other people in the classroom, because it's just you. I know that a lot of people feel a little bit insecure with that. I also did too. So with my more advanced Italian grammar courses, so Intrepid Italian for beginners A1, Intrepid Italian for advanced beginners A2, and Intrepid Italian for intermediates B1, this gives you the complete pathway from, absolute zero all the way up to a confident B1 level. Now, these courses are structured a bit differently, but they're just more in depth, essentially. So there are 17 modules in each. There's a video lesson in each and complementary exercises that go with that, so you can start to put it into practice and use everything. And as you move your way through the course, the material will start to refer back to previous lessons. So you're constantly got that learning something new while also, practicing previously learned content. So you have that you're continually learning and improving
Yeah.
and reviewing and
The
and so
repetitive.
on. Yeah. And
Okay.
yeah, again, focusing on the most powerful part of the language. So you're not just memorizing words, but you can start to construct your own sentences after the first module. And that's what we want. We don't want to be just memorizing, I'm eating bread on the floor in the bathroom crying or whatever.
Something that's totally not applicable unless your ragazzo breaks up with you.
Yeah, yeah. Your boyfriend, yeah.
Okay, so did you have like what do you have going? You were telling me you had something going on. Today is, I'll just tell the date. It's January 20th, 2023, and you had something coming up. So I was going to post this episode over the weekend or on Monday if you want. But what you have something coming up you wanted to share?
Yeah, so it's the start of the year 2023, and I am trying to do everything I can to make learning Italian a little bit easier for my students and for my followers. So I'm currently running a giveaway where you can win all of my courses, which is valued at over 1,300 US dollars.
Wow.
So that closes on the 23rd of January. And that will be the day that I also open up registrations to join my courses. They're not always available. I sort of do it by, a certain amount of time. I'll open it up, let people know, let them come in. And I do that just so I can, welcome everyone at the same time. But yeah, they'll be open for a week. So registrations will be open from the 23rd of January and they'll close on the 1st of February at midnight. So yeah, some pretty cool promotions happening at the moment because you can get all 3 of my grammar courses for the price of 2. So you don't have to pay the full price. Plus, you get a bonus 4th course, which is Intrepid Italian for Confident Conversations. And that focuses on helping you understand fast, real world Italian, it can be quite challenging to understand when Italians speak fast. So this is a really cool complementary course that you can use as you sort of reach like an A1, A2 level. And yeah, so it's a really nice bundle. It's the Intrepid Italian bundle. So you're basically getting 4 courses for the price of 2. So yeah, if you're interested in that, just send me a message and I'll set you up. I'll help you out.
Okay, is that how people buy your stuff? They go and message you, or do you have like online purchase on the website?
Yeah, I mean, some people like to just message me and just ask, I want to know a little bit more about your courses, and then I'll, give them a bit more detail. But yeah, you can visit my website, intrepiditalian.com. So you can go there and you can see all my courses, and my travel language learning site is the Intrepid Guide. So Intrepid Italian or Intrepid Guide, you'll get both of those. And yeah, contact
Awesome.
me, email or Instagram, whatever is your preference.
I need a freshen up course in my Italian, so I may have to take a look at all that. So I wanted to clarify something. When you say midnight on February 1st, you're in the UK. So let's talk about, does that mean UK midnight or does that mean US midnight?
Yeah, I do, because I do have a lot of students, a lot of people that are interested in learning in the States. So it's Los Angeles, so Pacific
Okay.
Standard Time. Yeah.
All right, that clarifies it
Yeah,
for those who
just so
want to
it's
enter.
easier for everyone. So Australia gets like an extra day almost.
Yeah, exactly. So, okay, good. Well, I don't know. Is there anything else that you want to share before we wrap up your episode?
I don't think so. I think, if you're interested in learning a language, Italian or any language, like you just need to find something that resonates with you. If you see that you like the way I present, there's a good chance that you're going to like my courses. So if you have any questions, I'm here to help. Don't hesitate to reach out. Yeah, this is what it's all about. This is why I do what I do, because I'm infected now with the Italian gene, thanks to my nonno and then my dad passing on my nonno's name to me. And I realized that there are a lot of people in my position where they do have that connection to their heritage, but are maybe just missing that language element that they really want to work on. So, yeah, I want to help you to get to where you want to be. And yeah, that's what I'm here
That's
for.
awesome. It's funny because when I saw your name written when we emailed each other, I was like, Michele, that is so weird. I thought that was a guy's name, but I was
Yeah.
right. It is. But now I know the backstory. So I didn't know that before. And then I just want to validate what you said about when you know the language, even if you're just going to go travel somewhere, you really get a much deeper experience of your traveling experience, not just like for ease purposes, but deeper conversations with people, deeper, meaningful conversations with your waiter or the person next to you on the train or a person sitting in a car. You're just resting your feet and you need to sit on a park bench and you can talk to the old nonna that's sitting there on the park bench. I mean, it's so valuable to have that communication when you go into another country. Like, I totally agree, because when I went and lived there were 30 students of us from the Texas, the US, to go to Italy. And I was the only one who really took like 2 years of courses before I went. And the Italians were picking me up on Saturday night to go have dinner with them. I was the only American in their little group because I could communicate with them and they couldn't communicate with the other people. And the students were like the Americans were hanging out with themselves on Saturday night, not really getting that cultural experience that I was being brought into their homes and stuff. So yes, on learning a language before you go. So check out Michele's website at intrepidguide.com, right?
Yeah,
And
Intrepid Guide or Intrepid Italian. Yeah.
or Italian. And I really, really appreciate you taking the time to get on and talk about what you do so that we can help the world find a more meaningful experience in their traveling desires that they have.
Thank you so much. It's been a real pleasure. Thank you again.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, guys, we'll see you soon. Please subscribe or reach out to me. I'd love to hear from you. And if you'd like to be a business highlight like Michele was, please just reach out to me. Go to globaltraveljunkie.com and fill out the contact us form and we'll get connected. All right. Thank you. Bye, everyone.